Sweet poison, the truth about sugar, and can I stop eating it? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Quality of Life Quest. My name is Anneke. So let's start with a confession. I kind of know what sugar does to the human body, and I've known so for over 30 years. I know, I'm old. I've worked in healthcare for over 26 years, since 2000. I've studied nutrition, I've read some research, I've sat with patients whose health has been destroyed by something they were told was fine in at least moderation. Last week I was in the Netherlands. I ate biscuits and cake with every cup of coffee I drank. And the coffee contained sugar as well. There was no thinking involved. There was no resistance. There was no moment of internal debate or whatever going on. I just did it. Not because I didn't know any better, but because knowing better doesn't always translate in doing better. And that's what this particular podcast is about. It's not another lecture about how sugar is bad for you. You already know that. Somewhere inside of you, you already know that sugar isn't the best of things to eat. It's about giving you more information on sugar, why it is so difficult to stop eating sugar, and perhaps some strategies you can use to eat less sugar. And who knows, maybe you can stop it forever and a day. I know that I've started it, I've succeeded, and then I started eating it again. So, it's possible to stop, and it's also very difficult. There are various reasons for that. So, can you stop eating sugar? Well, probably with the right understanding and the right support and a realistic picture of what you're actually up against. Most people are white knuckling it, and that runs out. That resolve usually runs out. With more understanding, you're more likely to succeed, at least in moderation. And as I said before, maybe you will succeed completely, and more power to you. Let me know how you do it. So sugar is not just the white stuff in a bowl on your kitchen table. It's not just sweets and chocolate and fizzy drinks. It's in your bread. It's in pasta sauce. It's in salad dressing, yogurt, soup, crackers, coleslaw, protein bars, vitamin drinks, and so-called healthy cereals. It's also in things that taste savory, and it's in things that are marketed as natural. It's in things that carry health claims on the front of the packets, but if you look at the ingredients, there's a bit of a different story. It doesn't just sit in your body. It's not something you eat and, just goes through your body and gives you an insulin spike or whatever it does. There's more to it. It does things to your blood, to your brain, to your hormones, to your gut, to your mood, to your energy, to your sleep, to your skin, your immune system, and your relationship with food itself. So we're going through all of it, not to frighten you and not to make you guilty about eating a biscuit that you had with your coffee or tea this morning, but because you deserve to know what's actually happening. And because once you know, you can make a better choice, a better decision. Not a willpower choice, a real choice. So here's a list of things that are coming in this particular podcast. In chapter 2, we're finding out where sugar is hiding, and it is hiding behind at least 56 different names in places you would never expect. Chapter 3 is what sugar does to your body, the biology. Chapter 4 is your brain on sugar, why it feels good and why you go back. And it's not a weakness, it's chemistry. Chapter 5 is about the birthday candle, the celebration, the office cake, the social context of sugar that nobody ever addresses because nobody wants to be the person who ruins the party. Chapter 6 is called Leaning In, It's what happens when you stop fighting yourself and start getting curious instead. And chapter 7 is about the invitation to try something different on your own terms, at your own pace, without guilt and without any rules. Now, you don't have to do all of it, and you don't have to do it in order. There will be timestamps, and you can skip bits of which you think, I know that already, and you want to go to bits that might be less clear to you. That's all fine. You do you. It's your time. I'm already grateful that you're here. So, yeah, choose the rest of your time wisely and go through this podcast at your own pace and in your own order and sequence of things. There is one question. When was the last time you ate something sweet without thinking about it? Not a treat you planned, but just something sweet you took automatically. No thinking, no decision, you just did it. Let me know in the comments. As I said before, there's no judgment because I'm eating sugar all the time in moments that I shouldn't be eating it. Yet, here we are. Okay, let's start. Sugar is hiding in plain sight if you know what to look for. I would like you to do something right now. I would like you to go to your kitchen or your bag or your desk, pick up any packaged food, any one at all. Turn it over, find the ingredients list, and I want you to count how many of the following words appear. And I really have to look at the page because I can't remember all of them. So here goes. Glucose, fructose, sucrose, dextrose, maltose, lactose, galactose, high fructose, corn syrup, corn syrup solids, maple syrup, agave nectar, honey, molasses, treacle, brown rice sugar, barley malt syrup, coconut sugar, date sugar, fruit juice concentrate, evaporated cane juice, inverted sugar, raw sugar, turbinado sugar, I'd never heard of that, demerara sugar, muscovado, caramel diastatic malt, I'd never heard of that either. I think it's 2 words. I think caramel is one and the diastatic malt is another one. Ethyl maltol, maltodextrin, dextran, sorbitol, mannitol, xylitol, erythritol. And that's not even all of them. There are over 56 documented names for sugar in processed food ingredients lists. And as you've just noticed, I don't know all of them either. And they keep on coming up with more names and more fantastic sounding things. I mean, the evaporated cane juice. I mean, that's weird because you've got the cane juice from the sugar cane and then you evaporate the liquids and you're left with sugar, or so I presume. So yeah, evaporated cane juice, honestly. Now here's the question. If you went to your doctor and the doctor prescribed you a medication and that medication had 56 different names depending on which manufacturer produced it, and those names were printed in small type amongst other ingredients, and there was no legal requirement to highlight them or group them together, would you find that acceptable? Well, most probably not. And yet this is exactly what happens with sugar. Every single day in your supermarket, in products marketed as healthy, in products carrying official health claims, and in products your children eat for breakfast. And most probably you eat for breakfast as well. Most breakfast cereals have got some sort of sugar in them. And that is not an accident. So I remember looking differently at sugar when I found out the following. There was a breakfast cereal, and I'm not going to name names because I want to keep this I want to keep this channel going if at all possible. But it was a breakfast cereal and it contained more sugar than cereal. So you've got a package of breakfast cereal. You would think that cereal was the main ingredient, and it wasn't. It was sugar. And at the time, sugar was at the top of the list. So at the time, you needed to list the ingredients by how much of the ingredients was in the package. So the highest content would be listed first. So in this case, it was sugar was listed first, and then there was cereal, and then there was other things added to it. So sugar was the first on that list, and it immediately indicated that that was not a healthy product, even though it was marketed to children. The rule is similar now, that it goes by weight. So per 100 gram, how many grams are X, Y, Z? And it has changed now. They've cottoned on to the fact that listing sugar as the first ingredient on a breakfast cereal is not a good idea. So what they've started to do is to use different names for sugar and use different types of sugar in the same product, which means that the collective amount of sugar might still be the same, but because it's subdivided into different names, it's not the first one on the list, or the second one, or the third, whatever the product may be and whatever the situation may be. But the fact that you can see different names for different types of sugar is because of this, that they don't want to list it higher up the ingredients list. So I'm going to read a bit to hopefully make it more clear. The use of multiple names for the same ingredient. Now, same, very similar. I mean, Demerara sugar is not the same as white sugar, but it's still sugar. So to use multiple names for the same or a similar product is not a quirk of food manufacturing. It's a deliberate strategy, because in the UK, under the Food Information Regulations 2014, ingredients must be listed in descending order of weight. The more of something there is, the higher up the list it appears. So, if a manufacturer uses 5 different types of sugar instead of 1, each one appears separately on the list, which makes it lower down, less visible, less alarming, even though the total amount of sugar in the product might be enormous. Now, this regulation is there to protect the consumers. However, the food industry found a loophole to work around that rule. And it works because most people don't know that there are so many names for sugar, and most people look at the ingredient list, don't see the word sugar near the top, and assume the product is fine. And it might not be fine. One thing you can do is to turn the packet over and find the nutrition information table. That is separate from the ingredient list. And you can look for, under the carbohydrate section, of which sugars, and this gives you the total sugar content in grams per 100 gram of the product, regardless of how many different names it appears under in the ingredient list. Sometimes I see things and they've got artificial sweeteners in it, and they kind of sidestep it at times. It's not 100% foolproof, but at least it gives you an indication. As a rough guide, 5 grams per 100 gram is low, more than 22.5 gram per 100 grams is high, and everything in between is a sliding scale. One of the things food manufacturers also do is to put in fruit juice or fruit concentrate or something like that. There's a lot of sugar in fruit juice, and it may not be exactly the same as the white sugar on your table, but it does contain a lot of sugar. And just because it's got the word fruit in it doesn't automatically make it healthy. Now, this is not to make you afraid of food. It's about to give you the ability to see clearly what you're actually consuming. Because right now, for a lot of people, that information is deliberately obscured. And you can't make a real choice about something you cannot see. The Food Information Regulation 2014 were a step forward, and manufacturers are now required to list allergens clearly to provide nutritional information in a kind of standard format to use legible font sizes. That are good things. And if you look at a package, quite often the allergens are in bold. It's the same font, but it's in bold, so it kind of stands out. So that are good things. But they haven't closed this loophole where they can just use all different words for sugar rather than, group it together and say, this might not be as healthy as they claim, which is really unfair. But there you go. It's the reality. Your task, if you are willing to accept it, go to your kitchen and take 3 things you eat on a regular basis, of which you would think that sugar has no business in that particular product. Turn it over, read the ingredients, see if there's any of the names on the list that you now recognize to be sugar, and see if sugars are mentioned in that and how much is actually in the product you're eating. Put it in the comments. As I said before, there's no judgment at all, but it would be interesting to see what the products are, how much sugars there are in it, and we can all learn from each other. Thank you very much. See you in the next chapter. Bye. What sugar does to your body. Sugar is not just empty calories. That's the polite version. The version that lets it off lightly. So when you are feeling exhausted, not tired, but exhausted, the kind of exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix. You've got headaches that come and go without obvious reason. Your mood is unpredictable, fine one moment, irritable or flat the next, seemingly without a cause. Your skin isn't right. Your digestion isn't right. Putting on weight around the middle, despite not eating dramatically more than what you've used to. Feeling a bit foggy. Feel like you're operating at about 60% of your capacity and can't work out why. You may have seen your GP and they may have taken bloods and your bloods come back as normal and you've been told that nothing is wrong. But there is something wrong. You know that there's something wrong. And I'm not saying this is a definite, because there can be all sorts of reasons for this. I'm not your doctor. But I will tell you that what I've just described is a remarkably accurate picture of what chronic high sugar consumption does to a human body over time. And it's not dramatic in the moment. It's not all at once. It's quiet, it's cumulative in ways that are easy to attribute to stress or age or just life. But it's biology. So when you eat sugar, and that's any form of sugar, your blood glucose rises. Your pancreas responds by releasing insulin, and insulin's job is to move that glucose out of your bloodstream and into your cells, where it can be used for energy. That's normal. That's how it's supposed to work. The problem is frequency and quantity. If your blood glucose spikes repeatedly throughout the day, which it does when you consume the amounts of sugar that are normal in a modern Western diet, your pancreas is releasing insulin repeatedly throughout the day. And over time, your cells start to become less responsive to insulin. They've seen so much of it that they've started to tune it out. And this is called insulin resistance. And it's the beginning of a cascade of problems that include type 2 diabetes, but also, and that's the part most people don't know, inflammation, weight gain, particularly around the abdomen, hormonal disruption, cardiovascular stress, and cognitive decline. And that's not a dramatic worst case scenario. That's documented, it's peer reviewed, it's well established trajectory of chronically elevated blood sugar over years and decades. But here's what I want you to notice right now, today, not in 10 years' time, right now. Sugar causes inflammation. Inflammation is your immune system's response to a perceived threat. Short-term inflammation is protective. It's how you heal a cut or fight an infection. Chronic, low-grade inflammation is destructive. It damages tissues, disrupts hormones, affects mood, affects sleep, affects energy, affects your ability to think clearly. And a chronic low-grade inflammation is exactly what sustained high sugar consumption produces. That is why exhaustion, foggy, irritable, bloating feeling is so common and so hard to pin down. It doesn't feel like a sugar problem. It feels like you're just not quite right. It feels like stress. It feels like getting older. It feels like a lot of things that aren't sugar, but nobody told you to look there. Your gut is also affected. The bacteria in your digestive system, your microbiome, are really very sensitive to what you eat. That bacteria that thrive on sugar are not the ones you want in abundance. An overgrowth of sugar-feeding bacteria at the expense of the more beneficial strains disrupt digestion. It affects nutrient absorption. It contributes to bloating and discomfort. And through the gut-brain axis, it affects your mood and your mental health. Wouldn't that be interesting to do some extra research on sugar and mental health? It's quite amazing to see how much sugar people consume and how much mental health is an issue nowadays. Anyway, let's move on. Your skin also reflects your blood sugar. Glycation, the process by which sugar molecules attach to proteins in your body, affects collagen. And collagen is what keeps your skin firm and elastic. Glycation damages it. This is why high sugar consumption accelerates visible skin aging. It's not vanity to notice it, it's information. But how about that? Never mind creams and lotions and potions. Look at your sugar consumption instead to start with. Work from the inside out. Your immune system is suppressed by sugar. Studies have shown that consuming high amounts of sugar temporarily reduces the effectiveness of white blood cells, the cells responsible for fighting infection. If you find yourself getting every cold that comes around, if you can feel run down more often than you think you should, your sugar consumption is worth examining. And then your energy. The spike and crash cycle. The one you probably recognize even if you haven't named it, is your blood glucose rising sharply after a sugar food or drink, your insulin responding to bring it back down, and then overcorrecting, leaving your blood glucose lower than it was before you ate, which makes you tired and makes you want more sugar, which starts the cycle all over again. It's something I recognized when I was traveling up and down to the Netherlands with the children quite a lot. In our house, we didn't eat an awful lot of sugar, but traveling to and from the Netherlands, we would have sugar in the car. All sorts of sweets, treats, biscuits, you name it. Most of them had sugar in it. And it would be a travel thing to have all that. It was a kind of festive thing. And I would go along with the kids, I would consume it as well. And I did find whilst driving the trip would take about 12 hours if you could just continue driving and there was nothing going wrong, it would take about 12 hours. And I noticed that if I ate sugar, I would have a crash in my energy. And it took me some time to notice the pattern. But once I noticed it, I started packing carrots and cucumber for myself to not have that crash, because if you're driving a car, you do not want this dip in energy. Not for yourself, not for the kids, and not for anyone else on the road. So all of those things together, they're not a character flaw. It's physiology. Your body is doing exactly what it's designed to do. The problem is the environment it's operating in. The body wasn't made for, sugar to be there 24/7. Sugar used to be something special. And the culture has gone beyond that. So what I would like you to take from this chapter is that the symptoms you might be attributing to stress or age, or just how you are, the fatigue, the fog, the mood swings, the weight that won't shift, the skin that isn't right, the digestion that's off, these are all worth looking into through the lens of blood sugar and sugar consumption. Not instead of seeing your doctor. Please, if there's something wrong, go and see your healthcare provider. But alongside it, it's one of the things you can do for yourself. You can log what you eat. You can see what you eat and see what the effects are. Because it is a piece of the picture that's very rarely raised in a 10-minute GP appointment. A week ago, I drove through the night to be with my mum. And she passed a few days later. It was an amazing time. We were all there. We took turns to be with her, to sit with her, keeping her company so she wouldn't be alone. It was a hard time, but it was also very precious. I had a lot of time to think. So many people go through something difficult right now, and so many people are doing it alone. It's as if time stands still whilst the rest of the world keeps turning. And maybe they're not sure how to get back into it, or perhaps even if they want to. And I know that feeling because I sat with it this week. So when I'm back in the UK, I'm going to open up a small number of one-to-one sessions. Just us, you and I, 90 minutes. Whatever you're carrying, whether it's your health, your life, your next step, the things you can't quite say out loud to anyone else, I can sit with you, help you see more clearly, and help you find the next step for when you're ready to take that next step. The spaces are limited, since, as you can imagine, I've got quite a lot going on at the moment. So do check availability and book your time at thequalityoflife.quest/personal-chat. I'll see you there. You're not broken. Your body is responding predictably to what it's been given. Change what you give it and the response changes. It's also not a promise of a miracle, and it is biology. So what can you do at the end of this chapter? Just for one day, notice the cycle. Notice when your energy dips. Notice what you ate or drank in the hour before. Notice whether you reach for something sweet when the dip hits. Just do your normal thing without changing anything at all. Just watch, just notice what happens. And as I said before, because we didn't eat an awful lot of sugar when the children were small, and we did eat a lot of sugar on our trips to and from the Netherlands, the point came that I noticed that I was eating something and then had this really big sugar crash where I felt absolutely exhausted for no apparent reason, because I can drive 12 hours. That's no problem at all. Whilst looking after the kids, it wasn't always easy, but on the whole, I'd done it so often, it was no problem in itself. But there was this pattern, and I started to notice it. And that was yet another point for me to keep an eye on my sugar consumption. So that's it. And I will see you in the next one. Sugar and your brain. Here's the chemical reason why people fail to give up sugar. Have you ever eaten something sweet when you weren't hungry? Not because it was mealtime, because something happens, something stressful, sad, boring, or a celebration, and all of a sudden you needed something sweet. Most people have, including me. And have you ever told yourself you weren't going to eat that chocolate or biscuit or cake and then eaten it anyway? Well, I'm guilty of that as well. And then felt a brief wave of something that might generously be called comfort, followed fairly quickly by something that might less generously be called regret. And have you ever wondered why? Why, if you know it's not what you want to do and you do it anyway, why, when you make that decision in the morning, it seems to evaporate by 3 o'clock in the afternoon? And why does it feel as if someone else is making that decision for you? And the answer is in your brain, and it has almost nothing to do with willpower. So, sugar triggers the release of dopamine. And dopamine is your brain's reward chemical. It's the same chemical released by other pleasurable experiences, connection, achievement, certain drugs. And when you eat sugar, your brain registers it as a reward. It feels good. And your brain, being the efficient pattern recognition machine that it is, notices this and files it away. Sugar equals reward. Seek sugar. So it's an ancient survival mechanism. For most of human evolutionary history, sweet things were rare and calorie dense. And finding them was a real benefit to your survival. So your brain rewarding you for seeking them made complete sense. The problem is that your brain hasn't updated its software to reflect the reality that you now live in. Because if you go to the shop, it's filled with sugar. And lots of it is highly refined sugar at low cost at any hour of the day and night. And the sugar we consume now, even though it's got calories in it, there's no nutritional value in it. So your ancient brain is running in a modern environment and you're losing. Because further than dopamine, there's also serotonin, your mood regulation neurotransmitter, the one that antidepressants work on. It also is affected by sugar. Carbohydrates, including sugar, temporarily boost serotonin levels, and that is why you reach for sweet things when you're sad or anxious or stressed. It works. In the short term, your mood lifts and the edge comes off. The discomfort eases, and then it wears off and you need more. That's not an addiction in the clinical sense. The research on sugar addiction in humans is more nuanced than the headlines suggest, but the neurological pattern, seek, consume, feel better, seek again, is real, and it's being deliberately exploited. The food industry has known for decades that sugar is palatable, that it triggers reward pathways, that it creates repeat consumption behavior. The optimization of sugar content in processed food to maximize what the industry calls the bliss point, the precise amount of sugar that makes a food maximally pleasurable without tipping into too sweet. It is not an accident. That is food engineering, and it is applied to your brain without your knowledge or consent. It's not a conspiracy theory. It is documented industry practice. The research exists. The internal memos exist. The science exists. And it has all been systematically downplayed, challenged, and obscured by an industry with billions of dollars at stake. And I'm not telling you this to make you angry, although you might feel some anger. I'm telling you this because understanding where the pull comes from changes your relationship with it. When you reach for something sweet at 3 in the afternoon, you're not weak. You're not lacking discipline. You're responding to a neurological pull that has been carefully engineered and that is running on ancient survival circuitry that wasn't designed for this modern environment. Now, knowing that doesn't make the pull disappear, but it does mean you can observe it differently. Instead of saying, I have no willpower, you think that there's the pull. I know what that is. What do I actually want to do right now? And that gap between the pull and the response is where the real choice lives. It's a small gap at first, barely a second, but it's there, and it gets wider with practice. Your brain is also affected by sugar in ways that go beyond the immediate reward cycle. Chronic high sugar consumption has been linked in research to impaired memory and learning, increased risk of depression and anxiety, disrupted sleep, and, in longer term studies, increased risk of cognitive decline. The mechanisms are multiple: inflammation in the brain, disruption to insulin signaling in neural tissue, oxidative stress. The research is not yet conclusive enough for definitive clinical recommendations, but the direction of the evidence is consistent and it is concerning. What I can tell you from observation, which is not research, it's my observation, is that the patients I see who are chronically exhausted, chronically foggy, chronically low in mood are very often the ones whose diet is highest in refined sugar. That's not proof of causation, but it is a pattern worth noticing. So your action for this chapter: next time you reach for something sweet and you're not hungry, pause just for a second. Ask yourself, what am I actually feeling right now? Not what do I want to eat. What am I feeling? You don't have to do anything different. You don't have to put the biscuits down. Just notice what's underneath the reach. Just name it. And if you want to, you can put it in the comments. Thank you, and see you in the next chapter. Bye for now. Sugar does not come with a skull and crossbones label. It comes with a birthday candle instead. So, despite the birthday candle example I've just mentioned, my mum passed away last week. I was with her the last couple of days of her life. Through that time, the last couple of days, I could be with my mum, and the days afterwards, there was a constant supply of coffee and biscuits and cake, and the Dutch biscuits, the ones I grew up with, the ones that taste like childhood and comfort, being home, being safe. And I ate them every time I had coffee with sugar as well, without thinking, without deciding, without a single moment of internal debate. I just ate them. Could I have resisted it? Maybe. I don't know. I didn't even consider it, but did I want to? No. It was the right choice for those particular days. It was the right choice for me. And it's an aspect of sugar very few people write about. It's the social aspect. It's the human chapter. The one that acknowledges that food is not just nutrition. It is culture. It is love. It is grief. It's celebration. It's belonging. It's the biscuit your grandmother put on your saucer next to your coffee because that's what you do. That's what's always been done. And to refuse it would be to refuse something much more than a biscuit. Sugar doesn't come with a skull and crossbones label. It comes with a birthday candle. It comes with a wedding cakes. It comes with a tin of chocolates that appear in the office in December. It comes with the birthday cake your colleague brings in on a Tuesday morning and everyone gathers around the table for 5 minutes. It is the only 5 minutes of genuine human connection that happens in that office all week. And you cannot extract sugar from these moments without extracting the moments themselves. And those moments matter. They matter enormously. Connection is not a luxury. Connection in itself is a medicine. And I've said that before, and I'll say it again. The research on social connection and health outcomes is unambiguous. isolation kills and community heals. And if the medium of community in your culture, in your family, in your workplace involves sugar, then the calculus is not as simple as sugar is bad, therefore we don't eat it. And I think that's where most nutritional advice fails people. It is delivered in a vacuum, as if food exists separately from the life it is eaten in. As if you can simply swap the birthday cake for a piece of fruit and maintain all the same social meaning. You can't. The fruit doesn't carry the same fright. The fruit doesn't say, I made this for you, or we're celebrating, or I didn't know what to do, so I brought this. The cake and the biscuits and the chocolates, they do. So what do? First, you stop judging yourself for the birthday cake, for the biscuit with the coffee, for the chocolate at Christmas and the dessert at the anniversary dinner, and the ice cream on the holiday. These are not failures, these are human moments, and the guilt you attach to them is more harmful than the sugar itself. Second, you get curious about the difference between conscious choice and automatic consumption. The birthday cake eaten with full presence, with genuine pleasure, with the people you love in a moment that matters. That is different from the biscuit eaten alone at your desk at 4 p.m. on a Tuesday because you're bored and tired and the package is there. Both involve sugar, but they're not the same thing. Third, you start to notice which social sugar situations are genuinely nourishing and which ones are just habit, wearing the costume of connection. The office cake that brings 5 minutes of genuine warmth, that's real. The vending machine chocolate you eat alone in the car park because the afternoon was hard, that's something else. And both feel like they're about the sugar, but only one actually is. And fourth, and this is perhaps the most important thing in the entire series, you give yourself permission to make different choices in different contexts. You're not a dietary fundamentalist. Well, you may be. I don't know. But most people aren't. You're a human being navigating a complex social world in a body that has specific needs and a life that has specific textures. The goal is not purity. The goal is awareness. Awareness of what you're choosing and why you're choosing it. What it's doing and whether on balance it's serving you. Sometimes it will be. The biscuit with the coffee last week when I was in the Netherlands, it was serving me. It was the right thing to do and I have no regrets about it and I would do exactly the same again. And sometimes it won't be. The automatic reach for something sweet at the point of boredom or stress or loneliness, that's worth examining. Not because you're bad for doing it, but because you might actually want something else entirely, and the sugar is just the most available proxy for it. And I want to state something else here as well. To use sugar for celebrations or for get-togethers seems to be a universal thing. It doesn't matter which culture you're from. Sugar is used in celebrations. And if you're from a culture where that's not the case, please let me know, because I might be able to learn something from it. But yeah, there's that. So what can you do for this chapter? Think of one sugar situation in your life that is genuinely social, a celebration, a ritual, a cultural practice. And think of one that is generally automatic, a habit, a comfort reach, a reflex. Now you don't have to change any of them, just name them and see the difference. And if you want to share them in the comments, please, I'd love to hear it, because this is the part of the sugar conversation that almost nobody is having. And it matters. See you in the next chapter. Until then, bye. Leaning in. Everything I've told you so far has been information. The 56 names, the biology, the brain chemistry, the social context, it's all information. And information is useful Information is necessary, but information alone does not change behavior. If it did, nobody who understands what smoking does to the lungs would smoke. Nobody who understands what alcohol does to the liver would drink. And nobody who understands what sugar does to a body would eat it in the quantities most people eat it. So if information isn't enough, and it isn't, what is? And I've been thinking about this for at least 26 years. Across every modality I've trained in, across every client I've sat with, across my own life, my own patterns, and my own biscuits, the answer I keep coming back to is this: change happens when curiosity replaces judgment. Not when you try harder, not when you find more willpower, and not when you set stricter rules or make bigger commitments or feel sufficiently bad enough about yourself that you're finally motivated to do something different. Those approaches work briefly and fail reliably. I've seen it 1,000 times and I've lived it myself several times over. What does work, slowly, genuinely, and lasting, is getting curious. Curious about what you're actually feeling when you reach for something sweet. Curious about what the sugar is doing for you in that moment in time, not what it's doing to you, what it's doing for you. Because it is doing something for you. It's not random. There's a reason, and that reason is worth knowing. Get curious about what you actually want when you want sugar. Because very often it's not sugar, it's rest or connection or comfort or stimulation or a break or permission to stop for 5 minutes in a day that hasn't given you 5 minutes yet. Sugar is very available. It's socially acceptable and most instantly effective proxy for something your body or your mind is generally asking for. So what if you got curious about what that something is? So what is leaning in? Leaning in, apart from being curious and, having some sort of background to it, for me it means to allow yourself to fail. I've stopped eating sugar several times in my life and I've come back to it again. But I've managed for very long stretches of time to go without any sugar at all. And for me personally, no sugar is easier than a little bit of sugar, because a little bit of sugar has no amount to it. It's very difficult to quantify and very difficult to find out as well. Now that you've studied some packets of pre-packed food, it's very difficult to know how much sugar you actually consume. So for me personally, to say I'm not eating sugar at all is easier. However, the 1st of April, when I started my new I'm not going to eat sugar again, day 1 was a fail. Day 2 was a fail. Day 3 and 4, that was okay. Day 5, I ate some sugar without actually knowing it, because I tried a new food and it did come pre-packed. Did I read the label? No, I didn't. And I thought it was savory and turns out to have sugar in it. So I failed that day, and the next day I had some left over and I ate it. And so that was that, but that was 2 more days of a fail. And then day 7 was a yes again. The first 2 days, so 1 and 2, they were just before Easter, I think, and my daughter was here, and Easter comes with chocolate. And we had chocolate in abundance. So day 1 and 2 was they were chocolate-fueled days. But, I had 1, 2, 3 days that I succeeded. So that was okay. The next week I did really, really well. And then I was called to the Netherlands because my mum was taking a turn for the worst. And she subsequently passed away. Driving there, being there, doing the whole week of being there after she passed away and traveling back, it was sugar-filled. It was sugar-filled, biscuits, cakes, coffee, you name it. It was sugar-filled. So overall, in the month of April, I've done really bad with my leaning in. But The leaning in is, for me, like week one, where I fail one day, I fail another day, and then 2 days I'm successful. And the days that I fail, I don't chastise myself. I'm not going to flog myself just because I had some sugar. The days I do not eat sugar, I celebrate. I really celebrate, as in, yes, I've done well. Now, I'm going to talk about a different side of leaning in. So, leaning in for a lot of people means moving towards the discomfort rather than away from it. It means when you notice the pull towards something sweet, pausing long enough to ask what's here. Not to judge it, not to fix it immediately, just look at it. And it also means keeping a loose, non obsessive, genuine curiosity record of when you eat sugar, what was happening before, and how you felt after. It's not a diet diary as such. It's not a calorie count. It's more, how do you feel before and how do you feel after? A curiosity log, a way of gathering information about your own patterns that belong to you and exist for no other purpose than to help you understand yourself better. And it means that you notice what's happening in your body in the hour after you eat something high in sugar. Again, no judgment, just interest. The way a scientist observes an experiment. What happened? What did I notice? Interesting. What might it actually mean? And it means being honest with yourself about which sugar in your life is genuinely serving you, as, the birthday cake or the biscuit at a certain ritual, the ice cream on the beach, and which sugar is a substitute for something you actually need and aren't getting. And it means being kind to yourself throughout all of it, because shame closes doors and curiosity opens them. I've worked with people who had been fighting their relationship with sugar for decades. Yo-yo dieting, strict rules followed by spectacular collapses, followed by guilt, followed by stricter rules, and the cycle is exhausting. And it changes nothing fundamentally. What changes something fundamentally is the moment a person stops fighting themselves and gets interested in themselves instead. That shift from judgment to curiosity, it isn't passive. It's not giving up. It's not saying, I'll just eat whatever I want and observe it happening. It's an active, engaged, genuinely difficult practice of paying attention without condemnation. And it is, in my experience, the thing that makes everything else possible. You cannot think your way into a different relationship with food. You cannot will your way into it, but you can notice your way into it. One moment of genuine curiosity at a time. Now, for the coming time, just keep a curiosity log. Not a food diary, a curiosity log. When you eat something sweet, especially when you weren't planning to it, you write down 3 things. What was happening just before? What are you feeling? And what happened in your body in the hour after. There's no judgment, there's no scoring, there's no rules about what you should or shouldn't have eaten, just data, your data, just for you. And if you want to share what you notice, if you want to share the pattern that you're starting to see, please put it in the comments. Many people can learn from it. It would be absolutely amazing if this became some sort of database for other people, what they can look out for, or to see other people with similar things they have, because it might not come up in other literature. So please, if you feel okay with it, put it in the comments. And that's it for this chapter. See you in the next one. Bye. The month of giving up sugar is over. It was a mixed bag and mostly fails. Will I continue? So to start with whether I will continue, I will continue because I understand what sugar is doing to my body. I've done it before. It gets easier over time. I will feel better for it. And doing it here quite publicly creates some sort of accountability. The information I've given here, the background, the research, the references, please look into it. It's knowing that it's difficult and doing it anyway. That's a big thing for me. So the difficulty of changing a sugar habit is not a personal failing. It's a predictable consequence of neuroscience. It's the food environment, it's labeling systems and laws, it's how products are engineered, it's everything together. And understanding all that kind of removes the shame of failing. And when you remove that, it makes it an easier step to become more successful. We've covered a lot of ground. So the 56 names, the biology of blood sugar, insulin resistance, dopamine, serotonin loops, the birthdays, the biscuits, the difference between sugar that serves you and sugar that substitutes for something else, and the practice of curiosity over judgment and leaning in. So real change doesn't usually come from a decision. It doesn't usually come from a moment of inspiration or a health scare or a number or a scale or a conversation with a doctor or even a 7-part podcast series about sugar. Those things can be part of it, but they're rarely the whole of it. Real change comes from a shift in how you see yourself. From the moment you stop being someone who's trying to be different and start being someone who is, quietly and without drama, becoming different. And those things, they feel similar from the outside, but from the inside, they're entirely different. The first one, trying to be different, is exhausting. It requires constant effort and vigilance and willpower and the suppression of the things you're trying to change. It's a war, and wars are tiring. And eventually the side with the most energy wins. And in a war between your conscious intention and your unconscious habit, the unconscious habit has been training for decades, and it's almost always going to win. The second one, becoming different, is quieter. It happens in the space between the pull and the response. It happens in the moment of curiosity instead of judgment. It happens when you notice something about yourself without immediately trying to fix it. It happens incrementally, almost invisibly, until one day you realize that something has shifted. Not perfectly, not completely, but genuinely. And yes, the bit where you have a health scare or a conversation with your doctor or some inspiration or a number on a scale, that can be the initial trigger to change, but real change, it happens slower. Does that make sense? So there's the moment you make a decision that something needs to change, and then how do you change it? That's what I'm trying to convey here. I cannot give you that shift. Nobody can give it to you, but I can tell you what I've seen that creates the conditions for it. So one is understanding. It's not information, it's understanding. The difference between knowing something intellectually and feeling it lands in your body as true. And I sincerely hope that something in this series has landed that way for you. Even if it's one thing, even one moment of recognition of, yes, that's how I feel. That's what I know to be true for me. The other one is curiosity. We talked about it in the last chapter. It's ongoing. You have to be patient with it. And it doesn't need a deadline or a target or a requirement to have changed by Tuesday morning. Just be curious about you and your health. Then there's community and support, so doing it alongside other people, even if it's loosely following this series and following the comments, can help already. It changes something. Because shame lives in silence and curiosity lives in connection. And you're not the only person navigating this. There's loads of people doing this. And support, real support, the kind that meets you where you are rather than where it thinks you should be. The kind that doesn't have a script or a program that you have to fit yourself into. The kind that sees your specific life, your specific body, your specific circumstances, and helps you find what actually works for you and not what works in theory. And if I can help with that, with a 90-minute conversation, feel free to book a session of the one-to-one chat on the website. There should be a link somewhere around this video or this audio. Not everyone needs that, but if you want to have a chat about it, absolutely fine. Let's go for it. You book your session and we'll have a chat. This series, this podcast exists so that people who don't need a conversation can still access something useful and real and free. The curiosity log, the label reading, the understanding of what's actually happening in your body, all of that is yours in this series. Use it. By all means, use it. And if something in this series has made you think, I need to talk to someone who actually gets this, not someone who will give you a meal plan and tell you to cut out sugar for 30 days, but someone who understands this, that this is complex and human and wrapped up in grief and celebration and culture and brain chemistry and decades of habit, then I'm here. The link is below. It's an open door. Walk through it if it's right for you. And if it isn't, then just let it go. That's fine. I'll see you in the next video. Either way, thank you for being here, for all the chapters, for taking this seriously enough to spend this time with it. Your body is remarkable. It's doing its best in a world that's not making it easy at all. You deserve support that understands that. Take care of yourself. May the road rise up to meet you. Until next time. See you. Bye.